exclusive interview with Kim Walker and what drove him to murder.
My father is my hero. I will swear that until the day that I die. He's my hero.
Hero or cold-blooded killer? How the violent act of a quiet man shattered two families and divided a Saskatchewan community. Peering into the boxes, a prosecution victory. What's in Conrad Black's private files? And why the defense asked for a mistrial. Good evening and welcome to The Verdict. I'm Paula Todd. Tonight, a jailhouse interview with Kim Walker. He's serving a mandatory 10-year sentence in the Saskatchewan Penitentiary for killing James Hayward, his daughter's boyfriend. Walker was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for at least 10 years. It was an emotional end to a sensational trial. Walker's daughter, Jada, then 16, was addicted to morphine and living with 24-year-old James Hayward. Kim Walker says he feared for his safety and the safety of his daughter when he went to Hayward's home armed with a gun. He shot Hayward 5 times, killing him. Walker was sentenced almost 3 months ago, yet today the community of Yorkton remains polarized.
I totally think he should get off. Like, he saved a lot of people's lives. Like, it's wrong. Like, no one has, you know, the right to take anybody's life, but in this case, like, I agree, because he did save many more.
I think he should rot in jail. He had no right going there with a gun. There were other ways that he could have went about it, like with the police, instead of having premeditated murder.
What else was he supposed to do? His hands were tied. He protected his kid.
In a way, he lost his daughter for a while, and now the family lost their son, so yeah, it's pretty tough to say what to do. Kind of tears the town apart because everybody knows each other, so it's pretty difficult.
I think that Kim Walker is getting what he deserves. I honestly don't think he should be a free man roaming around the city because he shot one drug dealer.
For me, as a parent, to watch my child die before me without me intervening would be a crime in my eyes.
I don't know how. There's a no-win situation for all of them.
A judge ruled 2 weeks ago that Kim Walker must remain behind bars while he seeks a new trial. CTV News reporter Leslie Ann McPherson was covering the case from the very beginning, and she joins us from Yorkton. We've just heard a small sampling of reaction from Yorkton. Is that fairly representative?
Well, you know, Yorkton is a city of 17,000 people, but it feels a lot smaller than that. It's a farming community. Everyone knows everyone. A lot of people were born and raised here, and a lot of people either know the Walkers or know James Hayward, especially the younger generation seems to have known James Hayward. So it's really touched everyone, and you will get people completely on one side or completely on the other side, but a lot of people I talk to seem to be in the middle. I mean, you don't take someone's life, but at the same time, when your child is in danger, a lot of people say they don't know what they would have done.
Leslie, and you were covering the trial for a long time. Can you just briefly remind us what happened that fateful day that led to all of this?
Well, basically, at the time, this was all 4 years ago, and Jada was 16 and James Hayward was 24. Now, Kim Walker blamed James Hayward for his daughter's drug addiction, and he said he feels like he was out of options at the time. He tried to get help to get Jada away from the drugs and away from James, and basically he had gone to the police, and he eventually got a mental health warrant to have Jada arrested and taken out of that house and away from all of those things. But she was only held for 72 hours, and once she was released, she went right back to James Hayward's home shortly thereafter, and that's when everything turned that day. And Kim Walker says he doesn't remember a lot after that. He says he just has sort of memory flashes, if you will. And but we heard in court what happened was he loaded a gun, drove to the home, went into the home, and there was words exchanged between James Hayward and Kim Walker, and that's when the shooting started. Witnesses say he began shooting and continued until the gun was empty and shot James Hayward 5 times, and Kim Walker was arrested on scene that day.
What do we know, Leslie Ann, about the Walker family?
Well, the Walker family, Kim Walker was a welder in the city here, and he was a bagpiper, and he also was a member of a gun club. And he has 3 children. Jada is actually the middle child. He has 2 other sons. One is younger than Jada and one is older.
And what about James Hayward? The focus has often been on Kim and Jada Walker. But what do we know about the man who was murdered?
Well, James Hayward, like I said, was 24 at the time, and actually in Yorkton he was a well-known bodybuilder. But at the time of his death, he actually, we were told in court, only weighed about 150 pounds. And also in court this was said because of his alleged drug addiction. Now, at some point this man's life just kind of seemed to go off the rails, and he actually spent some time in jail for drug trafficking. And the Hayward family, when they were here, they were very tight-lipped during the trial. They actually said that they had been burned by the media 4 years ago when this happened, and they didn't want that to happen a second time, so they were very tight-lipped. But when they did come out and talk to us, they would come out in a group and they would issue group statements. And they would, their biggest point during that was saying that, you know, James Hayward was their son and they loved him, and they say he was a good person. So that was really what they wanted to get across, and they wanted to say that the media was portraying him as just a drug dealer and drug user, but that wasn't the only case there.
That wasn't the whole story.
Exactly.
Last question, Leslie Ann. The appeal, a motion for appeal has been fired. Any indication right now when that appeal might be heard?
Mm-hmm. Well, I spoke with Morris Bodner. He's Kim Walker's lawyer. I spoke with him this afternoon, and he said that Mr. Walker is appealing the second-degree murder conviction, and they expect that the bid for the appeal will be heard in June. So, and as you said earlier, Kim Walker was denied bail, and he remains behind bars today.
Wow, thank you so much, Leslie Ann McPherson in Yorkton.
Thank you.
And now to our interview with Kim Walker. He spoke with us in the Saskatchewan Penitentiary in Prince Albert, where he's been incarcerated since January. Here's part 1 of our discussion. How shocked were you when you heard the verdict?
I was very shocked. My head was spinning, and I didn't know what to think.
But given the support in the community, did you think it was going to go the other way?
Yes, but again, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to think at all. It's just been also mind-boggling. It's been very, very difficult on my family and everybody.
But you're the one in here. How difficult is it in here?
It's very difficult, but with the support that I've had and with God's help, I've been able to get by as best as possible.
How would you describe the kind of person you are, the kind of life you led before you came here?
I don't know.
Honest?
Normal, yes. As normal as possible. Go to work, pay the bills, trying to keep everything going.
When your daughter ran into trouble with drugs, given that you're a normal kind of guy in a normal family, what did you think about all of that?
We didn't really understand, I guess, when everything started happening. We didn't really notice the changes, I guess, right off the bat, and thought maybe it was just adolescence, or if you know what I mean. Just her growing up. Influences, peer influences and stuff.
Did you think of laying down the law to her?
We did, and it got to the point where she would argue with us so bad that she said, fine, I've got another place to go.
So
It
you're at
was-
risk of running her off, I guess. It was worrisome for you.
Yes. And at one point, I guess it got to that. It was so difficult that everybody, we were arguing so much that I tried to actually phone the mental health in Yorkton to get some help. And I guess I pushed the wrong button, and the RCMP number was one button out. And the RCMP picked up and found out, or heard the hollering, and said, well, we're going to send a police car around. And the police showed up, and Jada was arguing with everybody, and we were arguing, and Jada was calling us by our first name and everything, and it got to the point where the police said, well, does she treat you like this, my wife and myself, like this all the time? And I said, no, not all the time, but now she is. And you know, the police said, well, at this point, you should show her tough love and kick her out. And at that point, she said, yeah, well, I've got a place to go. And she moved to, unknown to me, to a place that was, I believe, set up by James Hayward. And Jada had just turned 16. And then James Hayward moved in with her.
And it's your belief, and I think your daughter, Jada, has confirmed this, that it was James who introduced her to drugs.
Yes.
When you realized that Jada had moved in with James, or James had moved in with Jada, what did you and your wife try to do to change the situation?
We would go there quite often during the week, and I would take Jada out for lunch, and we would talk to her and try and get her to come home. James had such influence over her and control that she was unable to listen.
Did you ever speak to him?
Not really, no. He was from what I understood, a very violent person, and also Jada, you know, wouldn't have it, and it was the whole situation was just so difficult.
How did you go from an awful situation, losing your daughter, to this man, to an absolutely terrible situation, which is that you're here right now? What happened?
It's very difficult to even think of this whole situation. I don't remember much from that day. But it was a culmination of so many different factors. The attempts that we took, the steps we took to get our daughter out of the house, out of the drug house, our pleas to the police, where I believe they were just ignored. When we actually got Jada out of the house to get her to the Pine unit, and our pleas to the psychiatrist there to keep her safe, and they were basically ignored. Even the pleas of the mental health nurses to the psychiatrist.
How did she wind up back at James's house after that?
James had sent people to our house to take her away from our house.
What shape was she in at that point? What was her health like at that point?
very poor. At Christmas time, she wasn't on any morphine at that time, I believe. At Christmas time, she was about 100 and, I can't remember, 125 pounds or something like that. And by March, she was down to about 85 pounds. So I would go there every 2 or 3 times a week and talk to my daughter and try and get her to come home. And she would. She would come home overnight, but she wouldn't be able to sleep, or she'd be gone the next day. And she I don't even remember where I am in the story now.
The day this happened, the day that James died, what did you do when you got up in the morning?
Well, I'm not. Maybe we could cut the camera, please, for a bit. Would that be possible? Sure. Thank you.
That was part 1 of our jailhouse interview with Kim Walker. In part 2, he talks about his regrets and the consequences of his actions.
To stop this horrible sequence of events, to somehow change this outcome and save James's life.
Like being true to yourself, value investing often requires daring to be different. Stick to your principles when others are following the crowd. It's worth it in the long run. Talk to your financial advisor about AIC mutual funds and the value of commitment, yours and ours.
Mockingbird, and if that mockingbird don't sing, Daddy's gonna buy you a diamond ring. Shh.
You're good.
Why do WestJetters care so much? Because we're also WestJet owners.
Hey, have you heard about Prime Minister Harper's Promise? Have you heard about Prime Minister Harper's Promise? I've got it right here on a DVD if you want to see. 5% renewable fuel content. Renewable fuel can be made from the same things that you make beer out of.
I like fuel and I like beer.
We can grow all this stuff ourselves, which means we wouldn't be buying fuel from outside of the country.
We can grow our own energy.
Yeah. Well, I can tell by the size of your SUV, you're really concerned about the environment. Actually, it runs on ethanol.
Sponsored by the CRFA. Are you ready to change? Are you ready to choose? Are you ready to kiss the phone company goodbye? Your next phone will give you more freedom. Your next phone will give you more features. Your next phone will change the way you talk to the world. Get your next phone today at Vonage.ca. Are you ready for what's next? Vonage, it's your next phone.
A moment, if you please. Moments can be short, moments can be long. There are moments of joy, moments of sorrow, moments of passion. Moments you'll never forget, moments you've already forgotten, moments you didn't get. There are awkward moments, senior moments, moments of truth, and momentary lapses in judgment. Moments can define you, moments can delight you, and moments can change your life. Here's to the moment, and squeezing all you can out of every last single one of them. Pursue the moment. Lexus, the pursuit of perfection.
Our first house.
Our first lawn. The great outdoors.
view of the water, and the future.
A yard made for kids.
A garage made for...
Whatever your needs, CIBC Mortgages provide choice, flexibility, and great rates.
Hi, I'm Brian Williams, inviting you to join me for Bell's Spirit of the Game on CTV, an exciting new series examining key issues in amateur sport in Canada.
Our next show provides an inside look at the war against doping in sports. And we talk to Dick Pound about the ongoing battle.
These people are cheating. You have to confront cheaters.
That's Bell's Spirit of the Game, Saturday on CTV.
You think there's not a lot?
Closed captioning of this program is brought to you in part by Corner Gas Season 3 on DVD. Available now.
Welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Paula Todd. Let's return to our face-to-face interview with Kim Walker, the Saskatchewan man who was found guilty of murdering his daughter's boyfriend. The verdict met him in the Saskatchewan Penitentiary in Prince Albert. Tell me what happened that day and we'll move off it.
I don't remember much from that day.
What do you remember?
Well, in the morning, Jada came home with us. Jada was on the phone, I guess, in the back bedroom. And I asked who she was talking to, and she just gave me a funny look, and I said, could you please hang up? Because I thought it might have been James. And I went to the kitchen where the other phone was, and I picked up the phone, and I said, hello? And James said that he would make her disappear, and that I knew what that would mean. Basically, because my wife and I had interfered with his affairs, I believe, making the police go to his house and stuff. The police told us to get this mental health warrant so that they could get in there and search his house and find drugs. And from what I understand, that Friday when they went in and they saw drugs and stuff, and they basically left him alone and strip searched my daughter, handcuffed her, and took her to a mental health warrant.
So when you heard James on the telephone threatening, what did you presume he meant?
I didn't know what to think, and I thought that he can't do anything because Jada's at home. She's safe.
What I'd like you to tell me, if you can, is what made you so scared that day for Jada's life? What was it about that day?
Her imminent death.
And what was it that made you feel that you had to intervene, or you would lose your daughter?
I don't know, because there were no thoughts. There's no thoughts. I don't remember much from that.
But your instinct was to protect her.
I knew she would die. And I know that since she was now I know that since she was being shot up with morphine, and I know how deadly it is, all it would do is just take a little overdose.
Do you remember confronting James that day?
No.
Do you remember harming James that day?
I don't remember it, but I have nightmares.
Bits and pieces of it coming
Yes.
back? How did you feel when you were told that you had killed James? So it's not something that you feel good about.
No.
It's not something that you would ever want anyone else to have to go through.
No.
When you hear James's mother say that people don't understand James and that he really was a good boy, how does that make you feel?
Very sad.
So not angry, sad.
Yes. But from what I understand, and from what Jada has told me, that this is not James's mother. This is an aunt that I believe adopted him, and that never had anything to do with him for years prior to this, because James was on his own ever since, I believe, 16 or 15, in and out of the judicial system.
So what you're telling me is that you didn't set out that day to try to stop someone from harming your daughter. You were compelled to try to protect her.
Yes.
I think that's why so many people support you.
I'm very grateful for that support.
If you could change that day, what would you change?
I don't know. I don't know. To stop this horrible sequence of events, to somehow change this outcome and save James's life, and to have somehow protected my own daughter in a different way. But I don't know what.
Why did you have a gun, though?
I'm ex-military, and I've always target shot. Black powder, rendezvous, all sorts of things. I've taught my children gun safety, but they know how to handle a firearm and to be safe around them.
So when you took your gun, were you just trying to get James to back off?
I'm sorry, I can't talk about that right now.
Some of James's relatives, the woman who seems to speak as his mother, says that you and your family are manipulating the public support, that you're, I think she said, getting away with murder, which is... How do you respond to someone speaking like that?
I don't know. I don't know how to respond to something like that.
How long has your lawyer suggested you might have to wait for an appeal?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I believe that the judge had mentioned something of trying to expedite my appeal. But I guess in here you can't count on anything to be set in stone. It takes what it takes. My wife can't work. The emotional strain on her is very difficult. Most of the money that we have raised has gone to legal aid. We've never been on welfare or anything like that, and we never believed in that, but I guess she's had to apply for it.
If you've got parents out there and they're having trouble with their kids, I mean, they're really in crisis, what would you suggest they do?
Hold your children closer. Talk to them. Try and communicate with them closer. Interact with them as much as possible and on as close an emotional level as possible.
Thank you.
We've heard from Kim Walker. His wife Elizabeth and daughter Jada have been listening to our interview, and they'll join us when we come back.
He saved my life. He did what he had to do.
The toll on both sides and the price they've paid emotionally and financially.
Watch CTV News with Lloyd Robertson weeknights at 10 on CTV Newsnet.
Looking for the right mortgage? Come to TD Canada Trust, where we'll help you find a mortgage that has everything you're looking for, which could make all the difference.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it.
Get the mortgage that's right for you. TD Canada Trust. Banking can be this comfortable.
It's 30 shrimp at Red Lobster. That's 30 chances to indulge, 30 cravings to satisfy. Mix and match your two favorites from decadent shrimp pasta, succulent garlic shrimp, lightly breaded shrimp, or savor a first taste of new garlic grilled shrimp. Tender shrimp brushed with a garlic butter sauce. Choose your two favorites for just $14.99 during 30 shrimp, only at Red Lobster.
Hey, Stu, I need you to track down a couple files. This is from 1970-something, somewhere in Asia. Good luck. Also, this is from finance. That's, what, 8 mergers ago? Could be anywhere. I'm gonna grab lunch. Call me when you got it. Got it. Right, see ya. No, I mean I got it. Right. Call me when you get them both.
Got them both. I'll just put them on the team site so we can get started while you're at lunch.
With the right software, there's no such thing as a needle in a haystack.
In this warehouse north of Toronto, an old technological marvel is rising from the ashes. Airships have been given a new lease on flight here at 21st Century Airships. The rejuvenated blimps, including this spherical prototype, are no longer plagued by solid frames or flammable gas, and there's little risk that the material will rip.
Today's fabric that we use, they are made from fibers that are 10 times stronger than steel.
This new technology has caught the eye of University of Manitoba professor Barry Prentice.
We see large airships being able to serve the mining industry in building pipelines, hydro dams, and of course just carrying all the goods and services into remote communities.
But this is just one opportunity for airships. With this cutting-edge technology, the sky's the limit. Canada AM's Cutting Edge is brought to you by Ford, built for life in Canada.
Inspiration. Where does it come from? Is it as simple as wanting to be the best? Or is it a drive to change the game? Wherever it is, find your inspiration, and you'll find greatness.
It's the most famous trophy in pro sport.
The Stanley Cup. It stands 3 feet high.
16 wins. That's what it takes.
I want to win the Stanley Cup for glory. Je veux gagner. It's why we play.
It's our turn.
Я хочу выиграть Кубок Stanley.
Я хочу выиграть Stanley Cup.
It's why we play. La Coupe Stanley.
It's my dream.
And I want to win it again.
And again.
And again. 16 wins. That's what it takes. I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Are you ready?
You think there's not a lot.
Closed captioning of this program is brought to you in part by Corner Gas Season 3 on DVD. Available now.
Welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Paula Todd. Kim Walker says he believed his daughter Jada's life was on the line, that her drug use was killing her. What he did to save her cost James Hayward his life. Jada and Elizabeth Walker join us from Yorkton, Saskatchewan right now. Welcome to both of you. I know this is incredibly difficult, and we're grateful to you both.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Walker, what has been the most troubling, the most upsetting aspect of this entire ordeal for you?
Well, I think the fact that I have lost my husband of 24 and a half years, and difficult. Our youngest child is only 12 years old, and my family has gone through so much.
Jada, I wonder if I could just ask you, what is it like for you knowing that you were at the center of this?
Well, it's, you know, sometimes it's hard to. It feels like my family has been ripped apart. I miss my father so much.
Jada, one of the things your dad has said is that he really believed that your life was at risk and that he needed to rescue you. Is that in fact what was happening?
Definitely. I got to the point
I think that we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you both. We're going to come back later on. But right now, what we'd like to do is to talk to, yes, we're going to take a look at some of the reaction that this case has provoked. One of the members of Parliament, in fact, has already raised this. And I wonder now if we could go to speak with Mr. Gary Breitkreitz. Mr. Breitkreitz, can you hear me there?
I can hear you, yes.
Well, tell us, you actually raised the case, Kim Walker's case, in the House of Commons. Why'd you do that?
Well, I looked at the facts of the case, and I don't think this is just an isolated case. I think we have more girls being seduced into a lifestyle that they can't escape. Drugs are involved. I think the system is failing them, and I think we need to start asking questions about why. I think that we need to investigate this. This case, I think, highlights some of the problems our young people are experiencing, and parents are experiencing problems with their young people. They feel helpless, and so I'm starting to ask for an investigation. If we don't look at this problem, it's going to get covered up, and I don't believe we should do that, because if we cover it up, more girls and young people are going to get drawn into a lifestyle that they can't get themselves out of.
We did invite, I should tell you that we did invite members of James Hayward's family to join us this evening, and they declined that offer, at least for now. But we do have some of the reaction that they have, that they've released in the past, Mr. Breitkreitz, to some of your comments. I wonder if I could just read them to you. Among many things they've had to say is that the tragedy in this event involved the murder of a young man, and that was James Hayward. And he's only mentioned once in Mr. Breitkreitz's statement. James had a family who loved and still misses him, and that's Kendra Getty, who's doing a lot of the work for her family. She continues that James was not less than human. He was a son, a brother, and the boyfriend of Jada Walker before he was murdered. And though he sold marijuana, which is currently still illegal in Canada, he did not deserve capital punishment. Gary, what's your response to that?
I'm not judging what the courts decided in this case. I'm saying the system has failed. And I think it's abundantly clear by what you've been hearing that the system did fail. We should be asking questions like, you know, are the laws backing up the RCMP? Are there procedures that need to change? Is the law failing us in some respect? Do we have to adjust the law? Is the Attorney General of the province looking into why this isn't working?
But what are you, can I just jump in there? What law or laws are you talking about? What do you envision failed the community?
Well, are we having a problem with our courts? Are the procedures the RCMP are compelled to follow working? Does the age of consent need to be raised? We've got a battle in Parliament right now. The Conservative government is trying to raise the age of consent to 16. The Liberals and the NDP are strongly opposed, and we're not able to change that.
The age of
that's an
consent for
example.
what? Can you just jump in there? The age of consent, what do you want to raise the age of consent for?
Well, I'm asking, would the age of consent have affected this case? I'm not sure. I'm not judging what happened in this case. I think that the system failed, and if the police would have been able to step in earlier, would that have made a difference? You know, the age of consent now is 14. If it had been 16, would they have been able to maybe deal with this situation earlier?
You're talking about the age of consent for consensual sexual relations?
That's right.
So you think that perhaps if they could have gone in a little bit earlier and under the auspices of that law, removed Jada from the home, that might have gone some length to prevent this?
Yes, that's quite possible. And I think another thing we have to look at in addition to that is why was Jada sent to a drug rehabilitation center for 72 hours and then released back into the same situation? That's why I'm saying I think the system has failed here. And I think we need to investigate and look at why this isn't working. And I don't want to prejudge what the courts have done. That's not my role. They have their place. But if the laws need to be changed, if the RCMP need to change some of the things that they're doing, if they're being hamstrung by the law, if the courts are maybe not effective in combating some of these problems in society, more young people are going to get drawn into a lifestyle that they can't get out of. And I think that's pretty serious. That's why I'm asking these questions, and I'm hoping somebody's listening.
Some provinces have already moved to change the law so that if you fear that your child is addicted to drugs or needs some sort of serious intervention, as opposed to just having your child held for 72 hours for observation or for some sort of treatment, that could actually be stretched to 6 or 7 days. And this is, of course, holding your child against his or her will. Is that something that makes sense to you?
Well, I think that that's something that we should investigate. That's why I'm asking these questions. 6 or 7 days, I'm not even sure if that would solve the problem here, but releasing them back into the situation that was the problem in the first place is certainly not solving the problem.
One of the things that I think we're hearing, a poignant plea really from James Hayward's family, is to not encourage vigilantism. They obviously do not agree with what has happened, and they very much are fearful that this could happen to some other family. Have you, because you are at risk of sounding as if you're supportive of the Walker family, have you gone out of your way to say, I'm not in any way, though, suggesting that you take the law into your own hands?
Well, that's exactly what I mean when we have to say that the judgment of this court hands, we have to discourage this. This is absolutely unacceptable. And so I think this case in Yorkton raises some serious questions, and we should be looking at where the system is failing our young people, our parents. I mean, it's hurting our communities, it's hurting our entire society, and I think we better take a closer look at what's happening here.
All right. Thank you very much. That's MP Gary Breitkreis.
Very welcome.
Thank you. And I'd like to go back now to speak with Jada. Jada, of course, is Kim Walker's daughter, and his wife is also here, Elizabeth Walker. They're joining us once again from Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Jada, can you hear me a little bit better?
Yes, I can hear you.
I wonder if you could, I try to imagine what it's like from your perspective. I asked your dad when I visited him in the penitentiary, I asked him if he was angry with you, if he felt just, oh gosh, if you'd stayed home, if you hadn't, you know, run around with this fellow, maybe things would be a bit differently. He told me he wasn't even a little bit upset with you. How do you feel when you look back on the situation?
Looking back on it, you know, my memory is a little bit foggy as I was so addicted to drugs. The days all kind of just blurred together, really. It was, you know, like the same thing every day, the same routine. My life revolved around drugs, really. I couldn't function without them.
Do you blame James Hayward for getting you involved in drugs?
Well, yes. James Hayward, if it wasn't for him and his readily available drugs, I wouldn't have been addicted to them.
But after your father killed your ex-boyfriend, it took you a while to come to terms with what had happened. How long did it take before you began to see this from your father's point of view?
Well, the withdrawal from the drugs seemed to have taken months for me. It took me a long time to get back to the person that I once was. To be able to start wrapping my mind around what had actually happened took a long time as well.
Were you shocked? Were you upset when James Hayward was murdered?
I was definitely in shock at what had happened, at what had taken place. It was a very short amount of time that day. The events, you know, that morning, everything spiraled out of control very quickly.
Do you miss him at all? Do you miss James at all?
No.
You know that his family is very angry, and they feel that he has been a very distorted picture of him as a man is being presented, in some cases by people who never even met him. Is that true? Were there good aspects to your ex-boyfriend's character?
Well, there was, right? Because he was a drug dealer. You couldn't be a jerk and be a drug dealer.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, you're trying to run a business. You're trying to support yourself. That's what he was doing. And, you know, if you're being a jerk to everybody who's coming to buy drugs from you, then, you know, of course he had to be a nice guy, so he would continue his business.
Is that, do you think, why you moved in with him and sort of fell under his trance?
No, it was, you know, he was charming in his own ways. It was his lifestyle. You know, he was very persuasive, and, you know, he liked to party and always drinking and partying. There was drugs all the time.
I wonder if I could talk to Elizabeth Walker, to your mom, Jada. The lawyer, your husband's lawyer, he's filed the motion for appeal. It's likely to come up probably as early as June. What argument are you going to make here? What argument do you think the jury didn't hear the first time around?
Well, I don't know if the jury got the clear picture of the events that led up to this and the kind of person that James Hayward was. The kids that were up there testifying all portrayed him to be a very nice guy. And from a mother's point of view, I seen him as a 24-year-old man who was a predator. He preyed upon young girls, 15 and 16 years old. He was supplying them with drugs. Every morning before these kids would go off to school, they were all stopping by at his house, and he had these kids believing that a shot of morphine would make you feel like $1 million. And he was slowly killing my daughter.
But has anybody told you that the penalty for using drugs or providing drugs is capital punishment?
No, they hadn't told me that, but what is the punishment for killing a young girl, for taking her life, for draining her life out of her? What about the pain that my family has had to endure? We have lost our husband. I have lost my husband. My children have lost their father. Our lives have been ripped apart. So what is the price to pay for that?
I just want to remind everybody watching that we did ask family members, James Hayward's, any member of his family, to join us, and they declined that invitation at this time. Jada and Elizabeth Walker, thank you very much for joining us from Yorkton, Saskatchewan.
Thank you.
And when we come back, the latest developments in the Conrad Black trial. The lids are coming off those infamous boxes. Conrad Black tried to keep out prying eyes, but the prosecution hopes it's opening Pandora's box.
A good team, like a good investment, can test your faith when the going gets tough. But as value investors know so well, dedication and patience will win out in the end. Talk to your financial advisor about AIC mutual funds and the value of commitment, yours and ours.
When work hurts, you need relief that fits the pain.
The Icy Hot Sleeve. Joint hugging relief that starts icy to dull the pain, then gets hot. To relax away pain, get the Icy Hot Sleeve.
Hard working relief that fits the pain.
It can happen at any time. The scorching pain of acid reflux. And when it does, I take a moment. And I take Gaviscon. You can actually feel its foaming action as soon as you take it. And since you can count on Gaviscon for fast heartburn relief, it's almost as if it never happened. Gaviscon, and it's gone.
Friday's Super 7 jackpot is an estimated $12 million.
12 million!
Super 7. You'll have fun being super rich.
A moment, if you please. Moments can be short, moments can be long. There are moments of joy, moments of sorrow, moments of passion. Moments you'll never forget, moments you've already forgotten, moments you didn't get. There are awkward moments, senior moments, moments of truth, and momentary lapses in judgment. Moments can define you, moments can delight you, and moments can change your life. Here's to the moment, and squeezing all you can out of every last single one of them. Pursue the moment. Lexus, the pursuit of perfection.
Our first house.
Our first lawn.
The great outdoors.
A view of the water and the future.
A yard made for kids.
A garage made for...
Whatever your needs, CIBC mortgages provide choice, flexibility, and great rates.
You think there's not a lot?
Closed captioning of this program is brought to you in part by Corner Gas Season 3 on DVD. Available now.
This is Valor Heath Howell. He's 6 years old and he's been missing for 2 years. He's got brown eyes and brown hair. He disappeared from his home in Grand Forks, British Columbia. Police believe he may be in the company of his mother, possibly in the United States. If you've seen Valor Heath Howell, please call Child Fine at 1-800-387-7962. And a quick update on the Conrad Black trial. The prosecutors are finally going to have a look at the contents of those 13 boxes of documents, the very ones security cameras captured Mr. Black removing from his Toronto office. Also, the judge today dismissed a motion for mistrial by Black's defense attorney Ed Jensen. He objected to prosecution questions about alleged illegal payments going into Hollinger executives' pockets. Yesterday, a similar motion by John Boltby's lawyer was also denied. We're going to have more on the Conrad Black trial and the contents of those boxes tomorrow night. Globe and Mail columnist Margaret Wente will be here. Now, let's end where we began. In the Saskatchewan Penitentiary, the walls are peeling and the air is rank. Kimberly Joseph Walker, the man who says he murdered to save his daughter's life, walks slowly with heavy steps and a dejected air. But when he lifts his eyes to debate, they are clear and blue and challenging. He may be facing a decade in jail for shooting James Hayward to death, but he has fight left in him still. His lawyer is appealing and feels there's an excellent chance Walker will get another trial. That's because the jury was told it couldn't return a verdict of not guilty. Consider, though, that the judge did offer the jury a choice. They could have convicted Walker of the most serious charge of premeditated first-degree murder, or the lesser charge of second-degree murder, or the least serious finding of manslaughter. Remember, these are Walker's peers, chosen from the sort of community his family says are so supportive of him. But if the jury couldn't acquit, if they couldn't let Walker go free, why not settle on the least severe sentence and find him guilty only of manslaughter? That way, Walker would be eligible for parole in 4 years. On the evidence, the jury instead opted to find Walker guilty of second-degree murder and put him away for at least a decade. Of course, a jury should be permitted to decide guilt or innocence. Otherwise, why bother having juries at all? Yet even this jury, faced with a way to send a message about Walker, instead sent a message to Walker, registering some grave concerns about his actions. And that, more than anything, should worry Mr. Walker if he gets another chance to defend himself. That's the verdict for tonight. We want to hear from you. Please drop us a line at theverdict@ctv.ca. And remember, you can watch us anytime on the CTV broadband network at ctv.ca/theverdict. We're going to be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern with an inside look at restraining orders. Do they protect or provoke? Please join us then, and good night.
Watch CTV News with Lloyd Robertson weeknights at 10 on CTV Newsnet.
Expedia.ca presents Lesson 1, Conversing in Italy.
Ciao! Perché sei così bella? Cosa ti ha portato a Roma? Il vento? Le stelle?
The stars? No. The Great European Vacation Sale? Yeah. Right now, your perfect European vacation is on sale. Just choose your flight and the hotel of your dreams, and presto, we'll get you there.
Aspetta! Vengo con te!
Expedia.ca. Your trip, your way.
Looking for the right mortgage? Come to TD Canada Trust, where we'll help you find a mortgage that has everything you're looking for, which could make all the difference.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it.
Get the mortgage that's right for you. TD Canada Trust. Banking can be this comfortable.
Hey, have you heard about Prime Minister Harper's Promise?
Have you heard about Prime Minister Harper's Promise?
I've got it right here on a DVD if you want to see.
5% renewable fuel content. Renewable fuel can be made from the same things that you make beer out of.
I like fuel and I like beer.
We can grow all this stuff ourselves, which means we wouldn't be buying fuel from outside of the country.
We can grow our own energy.
Yeah. Well, I can tell by the size of your SUV, you're really concerned about the environment. Actually, it runs on ethanol.
Sponsored by the CRFA.
Hey, Chuck.
I need access to data.
Okay.
It's in Germany.
Okay.
Oh, Bill, do I need to worry about hackers?
Bill?
Click on that app.
Wow.
Built it last week.
Please leave a message for
Bill!
I wish I had
A program or
Some kind of software.
you know?
You know?
I know.
Bill, I think I just killed the printer.
When your infrastructure is ready for anything, your people are ready for anything.
When I signed up for Vonage, I was able to keep my phone number, and then when I moved, I was able to take it with me.
Call quality is the utmost. It projects my business. And with Vonage, it's perfect.
Vonage and reliability, that just kind of goes hand in hand.
It's just $39.99 a month for unlimited local and long distance. Call now and get 1 month free, including free calls to Canada, the U.S., Puerto Rico, and Europe.
X-Drive all-wheel drive marries legendary BMW handling with advanced all-wheel drive traction and control. This remarkable technology, together with exceptional braking systems, ensures the BMW 3 Series stops at nothing. Until it has to. The BMW 3 Series sedan with X-Drive all-wheel drive.
Hi, I'm Brian Williams, inviting you to join me for Bell's Spirit of the Game on CTV, an exciting new series examining key issues in amateur sport in Canada.
Our next show provides an inside look at the war against doping in sports. And we talk to Dick Pound about the ongoing battle.
These people are cheating. You have to confront cheaters.
That's Bell's Spirit of the Game, Saturday on CTV.
You think there's not a lot going
Closed captioning of this program is brought to you in part by Corner Gas Season 3 on DVD. Available now.
Here's a quick update for you at this hour from CTV NewsNet. I'm Sandra Jansen. The identity of the man who fathered Anna Nicole